Alright, so now we're going to move on to the internet settings. This is probably the biggest limiter with having a stream run smoothly. So I have meh internet, but that's why I like to stream at 720p. 720p is like a great starting resolution, if I hadn't said that already, because not only for the fact that it doesn't put strain on your computer, but also for the fact that it's not very taxing on your internet. Streaming at 1080p probably requires you to have a pretty good internet, more than just like at least greater than 10 megabyte upload. And that's what I work with, so that's why I don't like going, like, even sometimes I'll try 900p and I can sometimes barely get by with that. So let's go back to output. So your bit rate here, the bit rate is going to be dependent on your resolution. So ideally, this is really just kind of focusing on Twitch settings, but you know, Twitch, for most new streamers, you're probably not going to go above 6K. Most of the professional streamers probably have like a deal where they could get like 10K or 8 to 10K. But you know, again, I wouldn't worry about going above 6K if you're just starting out. So Twitch put out this really cool guide that kind of shows like your resolution and then what bitrate you should show. I personally disagree with 1080p 60 FPS at 6K. I've tried this before, and to me it doesn't look great quality wise, but this is also suggesting it for a slow motion game, so like a game like Hearthstone or Slay the Spire, games that don't have a lot of moving parts in it. So this could look good on those games, but if a game is like fast paced, you'll notice a lot of pixelation and blurriness. I would say for even a 1080p stream to look great, you're going to need about 8K, 8000 kbps bitrate. 900p though, I'm glad they actually added this. This is kind of like the step down of 1080p, but really the quality really doesn't change much. And it actually looks great at 6K bitrate. Great for shooters, fast-paced games, provided you have the internet to support that resolution at 6K. Because keep in mind, you know, higher resolution means it has to transcode more pixels per second. And if your internet isn't up to the task, you're going to find you drop a lot of frames, even if your computer could handle such resolutions. So again, two big things are your computer specs and then your internet are going to be the main limiting factors with what you can stream and how much quality. So after you kind of look at these, kind of figure out what you think you might want to go with, you know, pick it. Again, I would agree with the bit rates here for 900p, 1080p. If it's a slow motion game, maybe, but for the most part, I would probably just steer away from 1080p until you get more into streaming and, you know, have more of a channel audience. Now, I will say again, 720p is great for any new streamer, and in general, just great for streams. You could have a bitrate as low as 3000. And it'll look great if you're doing like 30 FPS, or you could have a bitrate as high as 6K and 60 FPS and it looks fantastic. So the reason I keep saying 720p is because when you're a new streamer, you're not going to have access to things like transcoding, which is important. Big streamers always are going to have transcoding because let's say you want to watch a big streamer's stream and you have terrible internet. Well, you're not going to be able to keep up with their 1080p stream on your bad internet. So naturally, the video will be able to lower the quality for your internet so it stays smooth and consistent. So even if they have a 1080p stream, you could just watch it at 900, well, maybe not 900, but 720p or 480p, and it'll still look great and run smooth. But until you get to that point where, you know, you're a more well-known streamer and you have an audience and you have enough people watching to get that, you're only going to have one you're only going to have one resolution you can stream at, and that's going to be the resolution that shows up. And people watching streams from phones or tablets or have bad internet aren't going to be able to watch a stream at 1080p. But 720p, most things can handle 720p with no lag, and the quality again is going to look great on small screens. You know, if you're on Twitch regularly, you'll notice that a lot of streams, when you open one, you're not going to watch the stream in full screen. You know, you're going to have your chat open, you're going to have the rest of the Twitch page open. You might be looking at other tabs while you're watching the stream, so having that lower resolution just means that you can keep the stream running smoothly, still have great quality, and being able to enjoy all the other aspects of watching a stream. So with that being said, to find out really like what is the best bitrate for you, you can do this really in a few ways. So you can do it firstly with using the auto configuration wizard. OBS has a program that's pretty nice, and like it'll kind of set it up for you, tell you what it recommends, and you could just run with that. But sometimes it may not work like you would think it would, and maybe you want to try setting it yourself. So we're going to go to this link here called Twitch Test on rich.net. You literally can just Google Twitch Test and it's going to show this. It's Twitch Test and then this. So I believe you go to, let's see, where is it? Download here. So you would just extract it, and it's going to look like this program right here. So you have this thing that pops up, right? So depending on where you are, you can pick different servers that you think are closest to you. Now, I don't know if there's things like this for other platforms, but this is kind of a native to Twitch. So like, let's say you live in Europe and you want to pick like these two. It's Australia. You want to pick like these two, right? So all you really need to do is pick the servers you want. They even have like groups you can pick. And then you want to set the test duration to about 30 seconds to a minute. That gives you the most accurate results. I would leave the window size at 64K. That's the default. So let's just do like a quick 10-second test on both these. Keep in mind too, when you are doing this, I would not be doing anything else like looking up videos or anything, because that can affect the results. Alternatively though, you could also do other things while this is running to help kind of stress test it. Now, I'm not going to get great bandwidth and ping here because obviously these are like in freaking different countries, but just to give you an idea, the bandwidth kind of shows like how much bandwidth you could utilize on that server for your stream. And then the ping time, the RTT, tells you how long it takes to reach a signal, which this is actually surprisingly not bad considering this is like across the ocean. But again, this kind of just gives you an idea of what servers would be best for you. Now, take this with a grain of salt, because sometimes you could get really bad results, but it works fine when you stream, but it's usually pretty accurate at telling you like what streams are good. And sometimes a stream is having a bad day, so it could even tell you like this stream is doing crap today, you should probably do another server. Another good way to kind of look up things quickly, if you want to just see like what servers would work best for you based on your location, you can go to Google, type in Twitch ingest server, right? So click on this first link and it's going to tell you the 3 closest servers to you. It'll tell you you know, like these 3 are probably the best. And you could even take this information, go into the Twitch Test application, and then plug those in and see which one of those works best for you. So once you find a server you like, then it's how to determine, you know, like ideally, like what bit rate should you be at. So the rule I like to go by is you take about 80% of your upload. I mean, if you're on fiber, I mean, it's kind of like the sky's the limit, but if you're on like a limited internet like I am, you'll want to do that math appropriately. So let's do a quick speed test. I use Spectrum, so this is a good speed test to use. Pretty much, if there's a speed test from your internet service provider, I would use that. You could use Ookla, I think, is like another one, but you run the test, you see your download speed. Download speed's not as important as upload speed with streaming, unless you're like downloading like updates or anything from a game. But the upload speed is pretty much going to say like how fast can you send data to your stream or your server based on how much you get here. So I get about 11, 12. Let's just pretend it's 10. So 80% of 10 megabytes is 8,000 megabytes. So ideally, I could be getting about 8,000 for bitrate. Now, keep in mind, Twitch usually has a bit of a limit when it comes to using bitrate. So again, I wouldn't go above 6K if you're starting out. Something like 8K would probably be reserved for a streamer that's more popular and has a big audience. But even if I could get 6K off of this, like keep in mind, some days you might not be actually getting that upload speed, even though it says you are, just depending on how bad the servers are, if your internet actually isn't stable on certain days. Every little program you're using while you're streaming uses up bitrate and bandwidth, so like even just having a few YouTube videos open in some tabs in a browser could make the difference between having a smooth stream or not. Which brings me to another point. If you can, I would try to have a wired connection versus a wireless. Most of the time that does provide a more stable connection and can even help improve your speeds. And making sure you have a good quality Ethernet cable, just to help speed up that transfer of data. Now, if you can't, I mean, it's still possible to do Wi-Fi. I would just turn down your bit rate and maybe resolution a little bit more, just to accommodate for that. Because again, there could be like as much as a magnet being thrown in the air between your computer and the router, and then all of a sudden you've got a bad connection for your stream. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. Okay, so I think the last thing we should do then. I'm gonna have to show it on my end, on my actual OBS, because it's gonna be hard to show settings that I'm not using. Pretty much, we're gonna now just do a little test stream. So let's say we figure all that out. Like, we want to stream at 6K bitrate, right? Apply that. We find the server we want to use, right? And I'll use this one. So when you plug in your account in the stream area, I couldn't show this in the last video, but you'll notice you can have an option to test your bandwidth. So you click that, hit apply. So now, if I were to start streaming right now, which we will do that, it's going to ask you, you're going on a test mode. It allows you to test your channel. It won't actually show you being live. So we're going to hit that. So now we're streaming. But we're not actually live. It's just kind of testing your bit rate and your connection, and making sure it actually will be smooth when you really go live. So if you look at the bottom here, you'll have a drop frame area. It'll tell you how many frames you may have dropped. Also, it'll tell you how long you've been live, how long you've been recording, your CPU utilization, which again, like depending on the game you're playing, like this could be as high as like 20 to 25, but if you're finding like it's going like over 40-50%, then you might want to tune down some of your encoder settings. And it'll even flash a little warning here sometimes telling you like your encoder is overloaded. Now this warning is usually pretty accurate in telling you, you're probably like your stream's probably lagging, you're probably dropping frames on someone else's page. Sometimes it could just be flashing for no reason and everyone says the stream's fine. But usually your audience can tell you, hey, your stream's lagging. Even though this might be 0, your stream can still be lagging if your encoder is being overloaded. You also have here your frame rate. So it'll tell you like if you start dropping frames, it'll show that, and your stream could be looking choppy or buggy. I don't know if I mentioned this, but if you're doing like a game capture or a window capture and you find that you're having frame drops on OBS but your game is fine, you may want to turn on a VSync setting in the game if that's available. That usually helps with like any like bad coordination between the monitor and OBS. Or you could turn on that the limit capture frame rate that I mentioned earlier. Next, you have this little block. Pretty much this block will tell you how strong your connection is. Usually solid green means you're good. If it goes into the red and stays there, that means that your connection is unstable and you'll probably start seeing your drop frames go up. People will start saying rip F stream, and if it stays there long enough, like, you know, you might see like an offline screen, or like a you know, streams trying to reconnect on like your dashboard or your stream preview screen until like it comes back. And then of course this tells you like what your bit rate's at. Now this is pretty important to look at if you're trying to figure out like if my stream is actually like smooth or not, because sometimes you'll notice like it fluctuates. Like it might jump up into like the 8,000s, or it might drop to the 4,000s. And if it does that consistently, that can mean that your bit rate is not able to maintain the amount you specify, or your connection isn't allowing that. So that might prompt you to want to go in and change those settings. So let's do that. Let's say like, you know, like this is like yellow to orange, and like your stream is like fluctuating. People are like saying like, wow, his frames are dropping. So what you want to do is you want to go into output, and then from here you can actually change the amount of bit rate you have. Now unless you have the dynamic bit rate already enabled, it might already do that for you, but if not, then you can go in and change it yourself. But what is really important to note is that some settings you cannot change while you're live. For example, you can't change your encoder. You can't change the server you're on. You can't change your video settings. You can't change the video settings here, but you can still do things like change your hotkeys, change your audio settings. You can change some video settings here. Just, you know, some things you can't change while you're live. So that's why it's always important to look over everything before you go live. You'll get to a point where you're more comfortable with not having to do that all the time, but for the first few streams, I would just keep looking over it. It helps you become more familiar with it, and it kind of helps teach you like what to look for if there is an issue. So that's pretty much how you would test a stream if you wanted to check all your settings out before you go live. And one thing I wanted to note, that after you're done, make sure you unclick the box, hit apply, and then restart OBS, because even if you unclick it and hit apply, sometimes it will still start up in a test mode. I've had that happen to me before, so just it helps kind of solidify that you're ready to go live. So that's pretty much going to cover everything, I believe. Yeah, that should cover everything that I wanted to talk about. I hope these videos help you start getting your stream off the ground, and if you really can figure out all this stuff and end up really liking it, then good. I love what streaming has taught me and has allowed me to do, and I want to continue doing it and hopefully inspire others to do the same. If you like these videos, please leave comments, or if I didn't answer something specifically, please leave questions. I'm going to post these on both my YouTube page and my blog, and hopefully this will help people start that stream that they've been wanting to start for so long. You know, make this the time for you to start doing that. So as always, I'll see you guys next time. Brother Ghesh out.